Here to discuss Trump's use of this language is Holocaust historian McMillan, who is also the founder of the nonpartisan group Save Democracy in America. Good morning to you. And thank you for coming back on the show. We really enjoyed having you on a few weeks ago. So why is this particular term, unified right, garnering extra scrutiny when Trump has used language associated with Nazis before? What is it about this that has really sent people into a frenzy?
I have to say that this is, in my opinion, a manufactured moment by the Biden campaign and their media allies. I mean, President Trump has said some very disturbing things about racist language, about immigrants poisoning our blood and wanting to lock up his political opponents and be a dictator. But this is not one of those moments. If you look at they're talking about a reference in a newspaper headline that's faded and very indistinct in the background that refers to a unified Reich. If you actually read the headline, it refers to 1918. Also, the word Reich is simply the German word for empire. Until the Nazis took over, for most Germans, the word Reich referred to the German Empire founded in 1871 that ended in the Revolution of 1918. So in this particular case, it's really not fair for them to talk about this. On the other hand, it's true that both campaigns, each campaign has accused the other of being a mortal threat to democracy. Republicans say that Biden's going to oppose a Marxist dictatorship. Democrats imply or even state that Trump is another Hitler. I think this kind of fear-mongering is irresponsible and unwarranted. And I also want to say that I think that the American political system is in serious trouble and that our democracy has been undermined. The idea that whoever goes to the White House in 2025, that we will be living under a dictatorship, I think is just implausible. I'd love to tell you why, but let me ask first if you have any questions about what I just said.
Yeah, I actually do, because you mentioned Reich, just, you know, what it actually means and referring to World War I. But in the big context of things, are we splitting hairs here? Because we know he's had recent speeches where he's echoed phrases that have been used by dictators. He said, you know, migrants were, quote, poisoning the blood of our country.
I'll be a dictator on day one.
Yes, and he's referred to opponents as vermin. He's chastised Jewish voters who support Biden. So, I mean, truly, do you really think that this was maybe not a referral to Nazi Germany, or is this just more of what we've been seeing, albeit maybe a little bit more subtle?
Well, I have to tell you, I watched that video 3 times before I could even spot the words unified Reich, because it's not part of the narration of the video. The words are actually not spoken in the video. It's in this headline in the background. So I absolutely agree that President Trump has said a number of truly reprehensible things that suggest the desire to govern in an authoritarian manner, and he's called his political opponents vermin, which is how the Nazis described their Jewish victims. So all of this language is very disturbing and inflammatory and really debases the whole political conversation. I just happen to think that this is not the best example of it. But maybe the larger question is, I think, is if he were elected, is this country in danger of becoming a dictatorship during the next 4 years? And I'd like to just, argue that that is really not possible. I think that's maybe the most urgent question here. And I say this because to be a dictator, he would need the support. You can't have a dictatorship without the support of the military. If he wanted to knock up his political opponents, he would have to turn the FBI into another Gestapo. The courts would have to go along, Congress would have to go along, state and local governments would have to cooperate. And the men and women who serve our country in these different agencies, particularly the military, these are deeply patriotic people who are committed to their bones to our democratic values. And it's just not, as are the American people as a whole.
But there were former police officers from across the country and military members who were at the insurrection on January 6th and were involved in the insurrection. So when you say that it's military members, they would have to have control of that. I mean, there are also people that have been elected into office across the country who will be in charge of certifying elections that are also election deniers. So I don't quite understand, I guess, the impossibility when there are people that are in positions of power who we have seen time and time again supporting the former president in other ways.
And adding to that, the Supreme Court, and we just talked about
Samuel
Alito and his wife
flag.
holding the, raising the flag upside down as a symbol of stop the steal. So the people in place to make those decisions, like you said, to go along, may seem to perhaps go along with whatever their president says.
Well, I think there is no question that there are people already in office, elected officials, who would support President Trump, for example, attempting to rig the election. I think it's certainly not inconceivable that he and his allies would manage to, in fact, steal the election of 2024. I don't deny any of that. As far as the police officers and military at the Capitol, I can't really prove this, but I find it hard to believe that they are representative of police officers as a whole. We're talking about a very small number of people. And so I think that would be unfair to tar all of our military and police with that brush. And I know you're not trying to do that.
Right.
I guess all I want to say to you is I just feel that we need in this country to have a little more faith in ourselves and in the American people's commitment to democracy, because we're not just any people. We are defined by our ideals. This is the only country where membership in the nation doesn't depend on race or religion or language. It's about ideals, foremost among them government by the people, which we invented and have made terrible sacrifices to make possible for others. And I just think that the idea that you could put Hitler in the White House in 2025, even he would not succeed in turning the FBI into Gestapo. If we continue on the road we're on for another 20 and 30 years, ask me that question again, and you may get a different answer. But I guess what I just want to say is I do think that our political system is a frightful mess and is undemocratic. But on the other hand, we need to have a little more faith in our own ability and our own commitment to democratic norms if we are going to turn this around and fight our way through to restoring government by the people in this country.
All right, Holocaust historian Dan McMillan, thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you.